I just heard a shocking stat that there are no directors across ASX 300 publicly listed companies who openly identify as living with a disability. And this is unchanged for many, many years. And that's a complete lack of disability representation at the board level, at the leadership level of Australia's largest companies. And furthermore, we have absolutely no statistics about the leadership, about executives across those top 300 publicly listed companies.
What a horrible statistic that is, that it's gone unchecked for so long, that we're not actually holding all of those companies accountable. We pay taxes just like everybody else. We purchase their goods and services, but we have no representation.
I'm Nicky Sloan. I'm CEO of Community Industry Group, and I'm coming to you today from the beautiful lands of the Dharawal people to bring you Community Matters, the podcast that explores issues that are important in our community with people who are making a difference. Today, we're joined by Krystal Tritton, who is the CEO of roundsquared, which is an NDIS provider that works with a social model of disability. So people with disability are seen for their strengths, supported to lead and included at every aspect. And I know this is something, Krystal, that this is a particular passion for you.
Oh, most definitely. Having a disability myself and being a leader of a company like that is not only unusual out there, but it's one of the most rewarding things I do.
Yeah, fantastic. And perhaps you could tell our listeners and our viewers today the disability that you live with.
So I'm totally blind. I've been blind since I was 17, over 24 years ago now. I'm getting a bit old. And it happened quite suddenly. It was unexpected. I had no insight to disability prior to that. No one in my family had it. No one I knew. When I was at school, kids that had a disability were often in another space. So we didn't have a lot of awareness or understanding about the impacts or what that would be like. So it was quite shocking at that time. And my whole family were like, well, what do we do with her? I was studying my HSC, so I was going off to hopefully become a naturopath, and was looking for a way out of a little town where I lived in Maruya. So was all excited to start the next chapter, but it all stopped really suddenly. And at that moment, I think I was the first person in my community to be walking around with a white cane because it just wasn't around. Actually, it was quite shocking, and I didn't want it. It wasn't something I knew, or so I had to relearn life completely over again.
Wow.
Quite quickly.
But you actually refer to it now as your superpower.
It is my superpower. In the jobs that I've had, it's been one of the things that have brought me closer to community, and actually my experience working with people who were homeless or at risk of homelessness for 11 years, it was seen to be, and I really probably didn't really recognise how much it was a superpower until I left, and people that I'd supported in that role would come up to me in the community and say, it was so good to have somebody that couldn't see, that so there was no judgment. So I could walk into their homes, and I could be in sometimes in the worst times of their life, and there was an inability to judge, because sight, as we know, can bring up preconceived ideas about people we work with, by the way that they live or the way that they look, or just the environment in which they choose to find themselves in. So, and I think that in many ways helped them when I was working with them, because I would spend quite a bit of time with an individual. They saw me as being vulnerable. So they were able to help me in quite small ways, which in some people's life, when they're dealing with some of the really big issues, just to give help back when they're receiving so much is actually really empowering for that person. So it sort of worked for both of us.
I think that's a beautiful example, and of course we have many members who work in the in the homelessness space, and it does that power differential.
Yeah,
you alleviated it.
It was gone.
Yeah,
it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I think that it also, in many ways, it was unheard of to have a person with such a profound disability like blindness working in a crisis situation quite often. So when I would rock up to a meeting or attend a person's home, they didn't expect to see me and my dog. So it just broke a lot of barriers through communication.
Yeah. And you said that previously, in your small town, you've really not interacted with anybody with a disability.
No.
Do you find that people are a bit awkward?
Oh, incredibly so. Look, I think it really, at 17, I think I was just surviving. So I didn't really understand prejudices back then so much, and I was very shy. So when somebody spoke to the person that was with me, usually a family member, how's Krystal going? And they didn't talk to me directly, I didn't challenge that at that time. I was just like, I probably didn't know how I was feeling. But as I've grown up and understood my own power within myself, or my own ability to have a voice, which is something I teach all people that I work with a disability, that your voice matters. I started to probably maybe in my 20s, early 20s, I started to say, hang on a minute, I'm here. How about you ask me? That was one of the things. Or assumptions. We have a saying in our house where the thing that we walk past is the thing that we accept. So if we walk past somebody that is, needs you just to give a smile, or needs you to offer a little bit of assistance, and you walk past that, you're accepting that that person is not worth acknowledging. And I think that's something that people with a disability deal with every day. How many times when we're at a supermarket we see someone with a disability struggling, and you'll see people walk past, and it would be the third or fourth person that actually say, can I help? Because that actual walking up to somebody that looks a little bit different, or speaks a little bit different, or has some behaviours that aren't perceived to be appropriate for that situation, it's easier just to look the other way. But I think what we need to do is actually just say hello.
And I think it's funny. I recently interviewed Charlie Ashby, and who's a great Aboriginal leader, and we talked about white fragility and the fact that often our white fragility stops us from trying to, because we're afraid of doing the wrong thing, we don't interact with Aboriginal people. Do you think it's a bit the same? I think we're just so fragile. We're so afraid of getting it wrong that we just don't do anything at all.
I think 90% of the time it comes from a good place. They don't want to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, or be politically incorrect. We're so scared to get it wrong that we don't even try. Or if we do try and we don't get the right reception from that person, we don't try again. When every person is an individual, and I think that we need to meet a person and just know that that person's reaction will be very different on any situation that you're in. I really struggle personally in the school community. I can go to a school event for both my girls, and it's like parting the waves. Walking through with my cane, you're basically on one side of the pathway, and able-bodied people are on the other side of the pathway, and it's those really unique, beautiful people that will come across and say, hello, Krystal, or they'll engage with me in a way that isn't about my disability, and it's really refreshing when they do, about the simplest things, because a lot of the conversations can be had about the disability when actually we all live really full lives in a lot of different ways, and our disability isn't our identity. It's part of us, but it's not who we are. And I think it creates social isolation. It prevents us from being included into the whole part of the communities which we're so desperate to be part of. And even as a professional, and the amount of people that are surprised to hear that I work, or they say, they don't want to ask me what I do just in case I don't do anything. Or I say, I'm a CEO of an NDIS service. They're like, and there's this pause and it's like, oh, wow, they didn't think that was possible. And I often think to myself, sometimes I want to challenge that. But in that moment, you can be just so thankful that someone noticed you. So you're just like, part of the advocacy in me and to support my friends with disability and the people that I support directly wants to use it as a teaching moment, but then you're just exhausted by the teaching and you just want to be a person. But that happens so regularly for myself and as a secondary for my children. One of my daughter Abigail was probably 6 and she was just started at a new school. She was in kindergarten. Her kindergarten teacher asked her about me, which is always a topic of conversation. So my children are actually asked quite a lot. So questions aren't often directly asked of me. They'll say, how does your mum do this? And Abby go, well, my mum's blind. And she said, oh, you poor thing. And she goes, but I have money. Because the most beautiful thing is my kids don't see disability. No. They've grown up with it. They see it. And actually they're really hard on people with a disability because they expect more, just like I do.
So for all of us, go up and say hello.
Yes.
And risk maybe getting it wrong, but that's real inclusion.
It is. It is, and it reduces social isolation.
Yeah.
And one hello can turn into a coffee, and a coffee can turn into a night out at the movies, and a night out at the movies can turn into a lifetime friendship. And don't we all deserve that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely we do. So that's one form of inclusion.
Yeah.
Krystal, you're a CEO.
Yes.
You're one of only 53% of people with disability that have a job, and your job is you're an executive leader.
I am an executive leader, and I take that role very seriously, and I take being a person with a disability in that role incredibly seriously. I attend lots of meetings in my role as the CEO of Roundsquared, and quite often I'm the only voice at the table. And with that comes a lot of expectation from me to know everything, which I don't, about disability, and to also be an independent person without my disability being my identity at that table. So, because I actually have other thoughts other than that. So it's and lots of experience. You know, I've worked in the sector for 23 years. So it's important that we have more people sitting at those tables. And I would say that statistic of 53%, only probably 2% of those hold a position such as myself.
Yeah, well, clearly when we're looking at ASX 300 companies, our biggest companies, there's clear gaps there in executive leadership and governance level as well.
Definitely. And I think we're doing better. I think that I like the way we're going. I think we could do more, but we do have people with a disability now, you know, in positions and working towards, particularly around that community sector, NDIS and other places like that. But it seems to be only in those types of organisations. I would like to see people sitting at the board at Macquarie Bank. Yes. Also, Coles, Myer, Woolworths, it's a challenge. Why, you know, so many of us shop with a disability? Wouldn't it be great to have somebody up there at that level helping make those decisions so that we all can be included in everyday life?
Yes, because if we have people at governance level making decisions that are inclusive of people with disability, it's going to be inclusive of so many other people in the community as well. Oh,
so much more. What I know about Roundsquared is that we have 40% of our staff either have a disability or they have lived experience. It's such a beautiful place to work. It's so fluid. We have the disability community and our members on the board of directors, and no decision gets past them without looking at the framework of disability in all the practices that we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that it really is the basis of, you know, nothing about us without us.
That's what it is. Yeah. And I think we're really good at saying that, but they're not walking their talk.
Yeah.
Not enough.
No, it's such a gap.
It is such a gap. It is such a gap everywhere. And if you're talking to somebody between the ages of maybe 30 to 60, a lot of people didn't ask, what would you like to be when you grow up?
Yeah, wow.
Because the possibility wasn't even there. I think that's changing. I definitely think we've moved on from that. But we have this group of people which want to have jobs and want to be meaningful members of their community. But right from a young age, they weren't asked simple questions like that. It's really, how many of us as parents say, oh, what do you want to be up? What do you want to be when you grow up? When we're parenting our children, and we encourage them to strive and expect more from them. But I think that there's a group of people out there which didn't have those expectations placed on them. And I think that's why we don't have a really rich community of people working with community in Australia today.
Yeah, wow. And as you say, it's great that people with disability are getting more work in the community services sector, but there are a whole heap of sectors out there.
Oh, there's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity. If we just allowed time and we set the standard, there needs to be a standard set of that needs to be met by large corporations. I think we need to start at the top. We need to start at the top where people are employing a lot of people and say, hey guys, we're going to set this standard. We're going to ensure, we're going to track it. We're going to make sure that you meet it, and we're going to help you meet it. We're going to put in scaffolding to help you meet this. We're going to give you education. We're going to give you resources, and we're going to spend time working through the issues so that we get to the end. And in 20 years' time, I'm sitting here talking to you and saying, oh, we're not even talking about it actually, because it's just an accepted thing that's what it is. And let's pay them right too.
Yes.
Let's actually set the standard for the minimum wage, but also work with that person let's not leave them in the same spot for 20 years either. Let's not say, well, we've got you this job and you're going to, unless they want to, of course, some people like the regularity of the same employment and doing the same things, but let's say there's an opportunity for growth and you two will be sitting at that table being a director, and that's what we do at Roundsquared. So I'm already mentoring my next CEO. I'm mentoring a group of people that I want to lead us into the future, because we need to have more people doing just that.
If you could wave your magic wand, what would you like to see society be doing?
Yeah.
What could, the average person watching today, what difference could they make?
It's really simple. It's I think that we have a great education system in Australia. We have access to education. We have access to some free education. We need to have a standard that anyone undertaking a higher education certificate to move into employment completes a module about disability inclusion and awareness. And that's not the standard around how to move a person from room to room, or how to engage with them in a politically correct way, or to not offend or anything like that. That's spending a day with a person with a disability where they're talking to you about the true impact of disability. And if we put that in every single course that is nationally recognised, such as engineering, finance, and what I know is when we talk, we make the biggest impact, because you're hearing it straight out of the mouth of the person that's experiencing it. And yes, it will mean changes, and yes, it'll change the way in which we do things, but it needs to be a national standard.
So the Education Minister, if you're out there, I think that is a very simple way to be truly inclusive. And I think we've done that so much now in gender equality that it's just become the norm. And I think we just need to broaden that out. And I think, yes, absolutely, in terms of disability inclusion. And can I also say ageism as well? And
let's pay them for it. Let's pay them a real wage to do it. And the amount of times that I've been asked to come and give a conversation about the impact of disability, or to raise awareness for a particular disability, and then for me to say, and how would you like me to invoice? And for them to say, oh, we haven't got it in our budget. Well, hang on a minute. You need to have it in every budget you write. Every person needs to make room for our voices. If you're going to ask for it, you have to pay for it. We're no different to anybody out there. We've all got to feed ourselves and our children. So we need to make sure that we're when we're writing up our yearly annual budgets, and that's everybody, that's corporations, there is a bucket of money that is for this. And see the change. It'll flow on.
For all these employers out there, how do businesses benefit from employing people with disability? At
Roundsquared, we have a member that has started with us around 4 years ago. I'll give a little bit of background, and just through that you can see the benefit that it is, not only to us but to them. So started out doing 3 hours a week just in our finance department, and then gradually moved into 3 days a week, and then took over the advocacy group, the Let's Talk Speak Out group. So now chairs that and is very much a big part of it, and sits on our local council committee for disability access within the community. Now, I've said that one after another quite quickly, but that took 4 years. And the benefit of seeing for the organisation was so much more than giving this guy a job. It made us see what was possible, but once again, it took time. It took time, and it also took for me to talk to the staff around expecting more, and just because you get more. You get a lot more when you expect more, because often we have these roles for people with a disability which can be a little bit tokenistic. You know, we can have them doing the mundane, but when you have someone come in with an expectation that this is the start and we're going to move you through the organisation, and as we go along we're going to expect more, they will show you that they can do more. And we see that time and time again at Roundsquared in a lot of the things that we do, because we don't see disability as an inability to work. We see it as a possibility to be able to give back to their own community, but also give back to themselves by having meaningful employment. So the flow on is so much greater than him just working for us now. He's now on a community committee, which had he not started with us, he probably wouldn't have had the confidence to be able to go on and do that, because he just wasn't getting a go.
Yeah, so he's not only making a difference for Roundsquared, but through local government, he's making a difference for the whole community.
Yep.
Amazing.
I would just encourage every employer out there, if you have a job and you need to have it filled, that you may think about first identifying that position for a person with a disability, and take the time, understand that it will take time, and that there may be some additional costs which aren't covered by some of the government incentives out there. But leave it a little bit and you will have so much more than that person there with a disability. You will not only enrich everybody that they work with, you're actually changing the focus. It's just inclusion at the end of the day, true inclusion.
Krystal, this podcast is called Community Matters. Can you tell us about a person in the community that matters to you?
Yeah, I thought about this for a little while, and now after having the conversation with you, I've sort of changed it. So we have a self-led advocacy group at Roundsquared. That was started about 9 years ago. It's a group of people that meet every week at the same time, and I often go in there when I'm invited. Often I'm told to get out, which is okay because, you know, so when I was sitting with them and we were talking about employment and we're discussing, you know, the difficulties around finding employment, there was a young lady there and she was talking to me. She goes, because you're the CEO, I think that I can. And that for me was like, oh, wow. It's not just that I do a good job. It's just that I have a disability and I'm in a position of leadership, which means if people see more of me out there, people like her and many, many others out there, that other group of this wonderful, rich community can see themselves in positions like this. So let's everyone walk their talk and put more people in leadership.
Because, yes, only 53% of people with disability are employed. That's compared to about 84% of the general population.
True.
So that is a huge pool of people with skills and abilities and ways of contributing to your business, to your work, and please to your governance.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today. That has been a really amazing discussion, and I think at Roundsquared, clearly you are being the inclusive employer that you want everybody else to be. So thank you for setting the standard.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you all for tuning in to Community Matters, the podcast where we explore issues in our community with people who are making a difference. Please like us, leave a review, share this episode, and go back and view our other episodes, and tune in next time for Community Matters.